The Elder Scrolls II: Daggerfall was released in 1996 and to this day remains the most ambitious game of the Elder Scrolls series in terms of game depth, size, and the sheer scale the game offers compared to the other Elder Scrolls games. I only found out about the game in 2017 from watching YouTuber and Elder Scrolls lore master Zarek Zakron's playthroughs of the game. Zarek himself has stated that Daggerfall would be his favorite game in the series if not for the original 1996's game's release, general bugginess. Despite that bugginess and randomization, Daggerfall has since managed to captivate me, and I have spent hours playing through the game's numerous quests and dungeon crawls. Also note that in 2017 when I began playing Daggerfall, the Unity version was not yet complete and it was still in alpha state. So I was playing the OG 1996 Daggerfall using Dosbox and not the vastly improved Unity version, so for me, even the 1996 release was enough to pull me in for over hundreds of hours of game time. One thing you will notice upon playing Daggerfall is that despite the enormous landmass you can explore, everything becomes a bit, well, repetitive. While there are differences in the game's overworld, ranging from high rock, seasonal European-themed forests and towns, Sentinel's Arabian-themed deserts, and the Rothgardian Mountains alpine environment, the game's randomly generated content limits the potential of the game through repetitive overworld stretches of land. Despite the game boasting over 40 kingdoms to explore, with over 100 towns per kingdom, the repetitiveness of the environment makes the fact that the game relies on procedural generation readily apparent. So if this game is repetitive due to randomization and can be buggy at times, I keep asking myself, why do I like Daggerfall so much? Why, when I could play Morrowind, Oblivion, or Skyrim, do I keep coming back to Daggerfall, investing hours in exploring the randomly generated content? Why is there currently a team of people who have been working voluntarily to create the game in the Unity engine to modernize it due to their love of this game? This video is me attempting to answer this question. Immersion is a major reason why I keep coming back to Daggerfall. This game can best be described as a fantasy life simulator. If you want an example of how much choice you have in Daggerfall, you can decide not to do the main quest. When you first get out into the overworld, you'll receive a letter asking you to meet a contact, and when you talk to this contact, the main quest kicks off. If you want, you can decide to ignore this quest and go about your own adventures with the guilds or knightly orders. This quest will then disappear after 30 days of game time, and you will never be able to complete the main quest. It's a small detail, but it brings a massive sense of immersion in that you can choose to ignore Uriel Septim entirely on the quest he sent you on. There are real-world simulations like banks in the game where you can take out loans, and you could also buy houses and even ships. Gold has weight, so you will be going to the bank often to deposit your money just as you would in the real world, and take out letters of credit, which you can use in place of gold in order to buy things in the shops in the game. When you travel to another town or region, it takes days of in-game time, not hours. The landmass is realistic in size, which entices you to go exploring. The music and ambience of the game is unique to the first two games of the series, without Jeremy Soule's influence, but still maintaining the atmosphere of a high fantasy world. It makes one feel much more like living in a real world and not a sandbox of curated content and scripted quests such as Skyrim. I'd have to say Immersion is one of, if not the number one reason why I'm still playing Daggerfall. Well, given that I play the Unity version now that it's complete. That being said, I still consider the original Daggerfall, the Dosbox version at least, to be an incredible game for its time period. Completely ambitious beyond belief, and one of the best experiences I've had in gaming to this day. You can think of Daggerfall as a reverse Skyrim when it comes to RPG mechanics. Where Skyrim simplified everything, making every character able to master all skills, Daggerfall made it complex, which allows for a far greater number of specific character builds. Daggerfall has 35 skills to master compared to Skyrim's 18. That's almost double. Adding to this complexity is the unique weaknesses and strength settings that allow you to completely customize your character, which I feel is the second reason why I like Daggerfall so much. With the unique strength and weaknesses system, otherwise known as character advantages and disadvantages, you can create a character that can't use leather armor and axes, cannot wear or use orcish made material, but has 3 times intelligence points, expertise in long blade, and immunity to fire magic. This type of customization leads to very interesting character builds that I cannot for the life of me understand why it has not been included in later Elder Scrolls games. There are even language skills in the game that allow you to complete speech checks with enemies such as Daedra and giants, allowing them to not attack you in a dungeon. Having the appropriate skill will make them back off and you won't have to fight. This seems like such a minor and useless skill in the long run, but in my opinion, this makes your character much more interesting and unique. The many skills allow your character to excel in some skills while lacking in others, which I believe is better for role-playing purposes than the Skyrim standard, in which you can be the master of everything if you want to. Despite the fact that there's such character customization in Daggerfall, there are of course complaints about the attack and defense system. Essentially, it works by random dice rolls in the background that's using game logic that uses game code every time you attack and defend, and it determines how much damage, if any, you do and how much damage you take. This is a bit tedious, swinging at the enemy over and over and hitting nothing, but the way Daggerfall animates the weapon swings and uses sounds such as clashing blades makes it feel much more natural than say Morrowind, which had the same problem. So to conclude on this section, the deep RPG mechanics and customization of your character are definitely a reason to keep playing Daggerfall. Now, I know this one might sound a bit silly, movement speed, but hear me out. One major problem I have with the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind is that the movement speed is just too damn slow. Is the game rich with lore, deep and involving? Yes it is. But getting from point to point in the game with no fast travel other than specific point-to-point travel can be extremely tedious. Just ask anyone about the walk from Sedyanin to Balmor at level 1. It feels so sluggish with the fatigue system draining your stamina just from light jogging. I know you can take the Silt Strider to Balmor, but the whole point of getting into Morrowind, getting out of Sedyanin, is that you have that experience that you just want to go exploring and not just take the Silt Strider straight to where you want to continue the main quest. Now with Daggerfall, it doesn't have this problem. When you run, the speed feels just right. When you stealth around corners in the dungeons, the speed feels just right. When you get on a horse and hightail it through the game's massive cities, the speed feels just right. It keeps the game engaging and the gameplay fluid nearly at all times. It of course can be said there is too much fast travel in Daggerfall, mainly due to the massive distance in between cities and towns that are basically just the same randomly generated territory. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the game has a massive sense of scope and scale, and the character movement is in sync with that and allows you to move through the world with purpose. In general, Daggerfall gives me a feeling of exploration and freedom that I don't feel as strongly with the other Elder Scrolls games. When I first started playing the game, I stayed in Daggerfall, doing the quests with the various guilds. After doing this for a while, I finally decided to take a ship to Sentinel. Arriving in Sentinel, the feeling I got was one of genuine exploration. It felt like Daggerfall really was a long way away compared to Sentinel. Compare this to Oblivion, where the distance from the Imperial City to one of the outer towns feels like such a short hike away. This feeling of massive scope and scale has not been created in any other Elder Scrolls game since Daggerfall. I understand why to an extent. Random generation is buggy, it's also very repetitive, and it's over and over again you see the same stretches of land, so it's really hard to create a massive overworld and also have it be interesting and worth playing. We can actually see this in a modern interpretation of procedural generation with Starfield, where they basically created procedural generation for the planets and it ended up being very buggy. It would be nice to have that feeling of genuine exploration in a modern game. This is chiefly why I'm so glad the Daggerfall Workshop project exists and they created Daggerfall Unity, so it's modernized and able to be played with mods, which makes it really great because you can stack mods on top of each other and create a custom experience. And I'm currently doing this with Daggerfall Unity. is creating one of the most interesting and unique experiences I've had in a game so far, as you can see from the other videos on my channel. And with that, I think that will about do it. I believe I've explained pretty much why I personally love Daggerfall so much. Going through random towns and basically having this huge world to explore makes it a really unique experience compared to like modern games or even older games that had everything handcrafted and tailored. It's kind of like that fantasy life simulation that makes it so awesome. Its main quest, the storylines, the way that basically you have these huge dungeons to explore, pretty great stuff, and we really wish they would do it in a modern generation. But anyways, that'll do it for me in this video, guys. Hope you all having a wonderful day, hope you're having a wonderful week, and I hope everything's going well with you. If not, hope it gets better, and I will see you in another video on this channel. Thank you.